Okay.
Alrighty, welcome in everybody. Welcome to the Texas to Tennessee podcast with Soul Gravy, and we are incredibly fortunate tonight to have Jason Eady joining us to chat for about an hour. So
Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, man.
good, man. Good. We're
Good,
super.
good.
Chris and I have been talking for a while about how we're going to divvy up the questions because I know both of
Yeah,
us have quite a few for you. So we're both very excited. We
yeah.
spent about a half an hour today fighting over the halftime song. So, but I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
came to agreement. So,
All right. I can't wait to see what it
any,
is. Yeah.
yeah, super excited to have you. Maybe for some of the folks who, for whatever reason, are not familiar with you, do you mind just giving a little brief backstory for us?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Mississippi. Grew up and I was playing music from a really young age, and um, yeah, I got really into it, and thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. And then when I turned 19, I just kind of gave up. Well, I didn't give up. I was doing some stuff in Nashville, and it just wasn't quite going the route I wanted it to go. I honestly I was wanting to write. Like writing was always a big thing for me, and I couldn't. I wasn't much to write about when you're 19, and they were the people that I was working with up there were trying to give me songs to sing, and it wasn't my thing. They were wanting me to sing about fast cars and that, teenage stuff, and I was listening to George Jones and Keith Whitley, and I wanted to do that. And so I just kind of I lost interest in it really, real quick, and so I joined the Air Force. Got out, saw the world. Got out of the Air Force, took a job, corporate job, and that job ended up moving me to Texas. And I had honestly given up on the idea of ever doing this for a living again, but I got to Texas, and the scene, the the culture there around music was unbelievable. And I really just started playing open mics for a stress relief, just as a hobby. And uh and it just kind of took off. The story that I tell, and it's really true, like where I came from. And I think this is true in most places around the country, but if you're doing open mics or any kind of thing like that, like you're kind of expected to do cover songs, and I was doing that, and people were coming up and saying, what's the matter? You don't have your own songs? And I thought, okay, this is cool, and I was finding guys like Charlie Robinson and Robert O'Kane and those guys, and saw what they were doing and the way they were doing it. And I just said, okay, there's something's going on over here. And then the open mic started turning into gigs. And next thing I knew, I was having to choose between my job and turning down gigs, And so I thought, well, man, this is my last shot. I was 30 years old, and I said, maybe I've got a second chance at this. And so I did it. I just quit the whole thing at 30 and started doing this and jumped in both feet. Yeah, I've been doing it ever since.
Well, we're thankful that you gave it a second shot. So I'm going to take you back a little ways. This is the first time that I found Jason Eady. Would have been 20 years ago on Thursday night, every Thursday night. I don't know if you
Uh,
remember where you were in 2004, 2005 on Thursday nights, but I do.
oh man, you talking about McHenry's? No, what are you talking about?
White Elephant
White Elephant. I
with
thought that was
Cody.
Tuesday nights. Was that
I
Thursday
think it was
nights?
Thursday. I think it was
Okay.
Thursday nights.
It
Yeah,
was
I've always
20
thought
years
that was
ago. He could
Tuesday.
be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
These are
yeah,
the
yeah, for
kind of
sure.
in-depth questions you're going to get tonight.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I had a little circuit around Fort Worth. I would go over to this place in Dallas on Monday, and then there was a place called McHenry's that did like an acoustic song swap. I think that was on Wednesday nights. And then I would do the one at the White Elephant. And that one you'd go in and you'd sit there all night to get up and do three songs, and then you'd just hang out the rest of the night. And yeah, Cody Jinks was the bartender back then. It was that's how I met him. We met there. Yeah, he was tending bar, and while all these people were playing open mics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Um, so this is the weird, I guess, the weird question I have to ask, just because it helps me at least kind of figure out where everybody sits in their business. So I'm going to give you a pie, and you have to divide it up into four sections.
Okay.
So those four sections are
Uh,
writing your music, obviously creating the music,
Hmm.
recording the music, performing the music, and then the fourth piece of pie or slice of pie is the business, everything else that goes into
Uh-huh.
making it happen.
Okay.
Where do you, I may know the answer to this, but where do you naturally gravitate? And then where do you kind of spend your time in those four slices of pie?
Um, I definitely gravitate to writing. I mean, I even say like this. I mean, I love performing. I do, but I perform because nobody's going to sing my songs. Like I do it because I want to write these songs, and I sing them because if I didn't, nobody would. So I just want to get them out there, but I do love it. I mean, I love the performing side too, but definitely gravitate to the writing side for sure. Um, that's what I do. That's why I do this is for the songwriting. But I love the performing. I mean, I'm on the road constantly. I pretty much live on the road,
Right.
um, and I love the performing side too. I love the recording side. I just that's something you only do every couple of years. I would like to do more of it, but I do love it. I do love the recording side too. And then spending time, yeah, of course, the business. The business side is getting better for me because I have a really great team now. I have a really great management team, a great booking agent, and I kind of have a call with my management team once a week, and we kind of make decisions, and then they run with it, and that's pretty great. It's really taken a lot of that off my plate, which is really nice.
How long have you had like this iteration of folks in place and
It's
how
right
is
at a year.
that,
It started about it's we I got with this
okay,
group about this time last year. Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah. So yeah, it's just they're really good at what they do, and it's just so nice. It takes all the pressure off of me, and I just kind of check in the next week, and they've actually done things, which is crazy.
How about that? That's wild.
Yeah, right. Um, so yeah, it's that part of it. I mean, I enjoy keeping up with the business side of it. I'm glad I don't have to just do it day to day, but that part's it's
Right.
fun to me to see because it's changing so fast, and it's a really cool time to be in it because nobody knows what's going on. I
Right.
mean, it's such a the Wild West again with streaming and social media, and I mean, even though that stuff's been around a while now, it's nobody's really figured it out. There's still everybody's still just throwing darts right now and see what happens. And so that's kind of cool, that just to kind of be part of that. Eventually, I think it'll settle into something. There'll be a path again, and there'll be a whole infrastructure around it, and just like it did before. But right now, it's kind of cool to watch it kind of flesh itself out.
Absolutely.
What what makes that cool from your perspective? Is it just because you may end up on the better side of it, or just something just new?
Yeah, it's just that it's a wide open playing field, so it's kind of an equal thing. I mean,
Yeah,
anybody at any point could put something out that just takes off and changes your life. You don't have to have a record deal for that to happen. You can just put the content out there and something takes off, or you release a record and something takes off. That stuff
understand.
is that stuff is I think it's kind of getting back to if you've got something that people connect with, it'll work, as opposed to there's these gatekeepers, and you got to get through them before anybody can hear what you do. So that's the part that's exciting. It's just at any moment things could change or go in a different direction. I think that's pretty exciting.
That's cool. Speaking of gatekeepers, uh, part from an outsider, I'm in West Tennessee. I'm near
Yeah,
Memphis, and so as an outsider, when I hear stories of a lot of the Texas guys or just that scene in general, um, seems to be pretty accepting of new people that are paying their dues. That's hitting the road and doing the things you need to do. As long as you paid your dues and putting out quality music, you're accepted in. How was
yeah,
that?
man.
How was that when you were getting going?
The same.
Same.
It's a great man. It is a great scene. I mean, it really is. It's. I wouldn't be playing music if it weren't for that scene. And that the everything around it. everybody's incredibly supportive, and I get asked a lot if that's real, because I think it comes across that everybody's really got each other's backs and everybody's lifting each other up. And I do get asked a lot if that's a real thing, and it's very real. I mean, everybody's friends. We hang out when there's a festival or something. We're all still together at the end of the night. You don't get that thing where people come in and they play their set and they leave. If we're all there, everybody's staying all night and watching everybody's sets. And um, I've been some other places and seen some other things where that's not true. They'll come in and you'll play your set and then you take off, and
Right.
it doesn't really happen in the Texas thing. Everybody stays around and watches each other and supports each other. It's really cool.
Is that pretty much the requirement? Like in your mind, if you see some young hotshot coming in, I mean, I know you probably don't think about it. It probably just kind of happens naturally. But is that the things you're noticing as far as just being authentic and legit and paying your dues?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think so. I think you can just tell when somebody loves doing it versus somebody that's just trying to make it, and that's a pretty
there's a
obvious thing.
difference? Yeah,
Yeah. And when you get in these after hour jams and stuff like that, same thing. You can tell the people that are there because they actually want to hang out and play music versus the guy that's just showing up to show you what he can do. And then it's like a move, like a business move. You
I
can just tell
understand.
there's just an authenticity to it. And so yeah, I mean, I think everybody can see it pretty quick.
Sniff it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the bar band world, I mean, I've got the guys that I've played music with that might not be quite as talented, but they're authentic and they're cool and and that's the ones that I gravitate towards. Those are the ones I love. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's
Yeah.
true.
the guy that's like, let me show you this lick, constantly. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I would
Yeah.
rather just not deal with for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
From a
Yeah.
fan, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, that's good.
Oh, I was just going to say, from a fan's perspective, it just appears getting to be around the scene a little bit. It can appear transactional and not genuine, and I'm sure that probably there's a similar thing between artists as well. But I've seen artists come in and they just don't quite get it, which,
Yeah.
sometimes when you're new to a deal, it's just hard to kind of figure things out, and they might be nervous, and who knows. But
Yeah.
from a fan's perspective, you can definitely sniff that out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's certain worlds that are transactional in the music world. I mean, there's still that thing still exists, where you go in and play the game and do the thing. And I mean, but that's just not the world that I'm in. So
Right.
and that's just, yeah, I don't really move in those circles a lot. So from where I sit, the authenticity thing counts. And even on the fan, like not just getting in with other artists and stuff, but I mean, like, you can just see it. The fans that like this kind of stuff, they really want it to be authentic. I think that's a huge requirement, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's why people coming up asking you for originals, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
we like a good cover, but we also can go out to the truck and hear it if we want to, you know?
Right. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
which takes me to, I was told that I shouldn't get in a circle with you in a hag off. Is that correct?
Who told you that?
My friend Zach told me that.
Yeah, yeah. I do love, man. I mean, I just love Merle Haggard. That whole thing, I think, if I'm right, I mean, I think it kind of started with Cody Canada. I did a run with them with The Departed right after Ragweed broke up. Was the first run they did out of state, and we ended up playing a show at Buck Owens Crystal Palace in Bakersfield. And I opened the show, and well, I was riding around with them on the bus, and after the show, I've got pictures of this. It's pretty great. But about six of us just took all the drinks on the bus, put them out and on the sidewalk, and sat on the curb outside of the Crystal Palace there in Bakersfield, and just played Merle Haggard songs until, I mean, I think till the sun came up. Like, just kept going and going and going, and yeah, and when, like, if a bunch of people get together. Like specifically like Steamboat, you know, that music fest at Steamboat. I mean, those late night hotel jams happen. And 9 times out of 10, no matter where it starts, at some point it's going to turn into some sort of, you know, trading Merle Haggard songs. And,
Yeah, that's
but man,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I love, you know, he's my all time favorite. I say that all the time. Like I have my tie for second place is about 20 people, you know, but there's only one first place for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Hag was as good as it is ever going to get in country music.
When did you do you remember when you discovered Merle?
Always. My parents had him. I mean, I don't remember ever not knowing Merle Haggard's music.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Okay.
my parents were playing it. My grandfather loved him, so I'd ride around him with my grandfather as a kid, and he had Merle Haggard 8 tracks. You know.
Nice.
Yeah,
So it was just
yeah.
kind of the soundtrack for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this was like that early '80s ag, you know, which is still my favorite. I mean, I know a lot of people like the early stuff. I mean, I like it all, but
Right.
man, that kind of
Sweet
early
spot.
'80s, that epic. I call it mellow Merle. You know, when it wasn't quite as honky tonk. It was a little more melodic and laid back and cool. That's my favorite era of his. But maybe just because that's what was, you know, when was started listening to him, that's what was
Yeah,
out. You know,
yeah.
yeah.
What? I mean, I know it's probably my favorite too of the classic guys. But for you, why Merle? I know the voice, but is it
Yeah, yeah.
the,
So
the
I
triple threat
never
threat thing?
no. I mean, I guess I never thought about it until I started doing this
Okay.
for a But yeah, it's the triple threat thing, and I never thought about it that way. But he can do it all, and then you
Hmm.
realize as you start to do this, like how impossibly hard that really is, and to do it as long as he did and as consistently as he did, you know, just so many great songs, one after another, hundreds and hundreds of just unbelievably great songs. And he was one of the best writers around. He was a great player. He put together the best bands. Um, and he was just unbelievable. And so, yeah, he's definitely, you know, I'll tell you, we had that sequestered songwriters thing that we did during the
Hmm.
pandemic. And this kind of sums up Merle Haggard for me. We, we started the whole thing because it was Hag's birthday in 2020. It was April 6th, 2020, and we wanted to do a Hag off, like a virtual Hag off. So the idea was that somebody would do a Hag song and they'd tell you, okay, now go to this person's page, and they're going to do one, and then we'd tell you to go to this person's page, and we really thought it was going to. We thought after about 6 songs, the whole thing was going to fall apart, you know, and it didn't. It worked. People kept going, and it just turned into this really cool thing. But it was only supposed to be that one night. And the very next day, John Prine died. And so we said, man, we got to do that again next week and do Prine
That's
songs. And then that turned into what became Sequestered. But it started because of Merle Haggard's birthday and doing a Hag off online. But the next year, so we always started it at 6 p.m. It was usually 6 to 8 p.m. And we just kept doing it. And people, like artists that weren't even on the show, were calling in, can I do one? You know, and it just kept going. Next thing we know, it's 10 o'clock. We go in 4 hours. And then we realized, you know, because it was a year later and we always did them on Monday, that Hag's birthday wasn't actually until the next day. So we realized if we kept playing until midnight, we could actually make it to his birthday, you know. And so we did. We kept playing, and then we realized we had played Merle Haggard hit songs, like songs that everybody knows. We played
uh,
6 hours and never repeated a song. And then we were all texting when it was over that there were songs we didn't get to. I mean, there was things that we didn't get to
It's
do.
wild. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I can't think of anybody else that's true for. You know, especially people that they're actually his songs. I mean, he wrote all those songs. You know, it's unbelievable.
Well, as a fan,
yeah.
I know Soul and I feel the same about this, but you made the pandemic a little bit easier on everybody by doing that. So we can't
Well,
thank
thanks.
y'all enough for doing that.
Well, it was. I mean, it was just as much a lifeline for us too. You know, as far as having an outlet and seeing each other and connecting, and yeah, that was a win all the way around. We've tried to do little reunion shows and stuff like that, but it'll never happen again. That was a time and place, you know,
Yep.
and to get 30 people on, you know, that are
Yeah.
able to do something on a Monday night, it's impossible. There's no
Because they
way
didn't have
now.
anything. Yeah, everybody
Nobody had
was.
anything else to
Everybody was,
do. Yeah.
everybody was locked in, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, we definitely, like you said, I know it's therapeutic for you guys, but it helped tons and tons of people. Do you at your shows? Do you have people mention any of that
All
stuff?
the time, still all the
Really?
time.
Did you
Yeah, yeah.
realize that in the
No,
moment?
no, because one thing I figured out about it later, and we when I first started playing, I mean, I heard what people would say, but we watched, the number when you're going live, it tells you how many
Uh,
people are watching, and it would be 3,000, 4,000 people watching, which is awesome. And what we were finding out is that a lot of people, it would stay live. So a lot of people were going on later and watching it, um, and then what I found out is a lot of like neighborhoods, people were getting together at somebody's house, and
oh
they were.
yeah.
So what was showing up on the screen as one person was like 10 people in a room watching this thing, and or in a garage or wherever, and so its reach was a lot more than I think any of us realized at the time, which also it wasn't the point. Like we weren't really doing it as a marketing thing. It was just fun, but just by looking at the number on the screen, it was hard to. It didn't translate how many people were actually watching, and that's been a big surprise to me over the years.
Well,
That's great.
as a fan of all of that, I think one thing for me, again, being outside of the Texas area, um, I didn't know that the community was like that. No, I mean, I guess it didn't really surprise me, but I didn't. It showed that the community with you guys in that situation, a little bit behind the scenes. Not that you were hiding it, but a little bit that we didn't know, which I think
Huh?
was cool to a lot of people. I thought it was
Yeah,
cool because I was like, oh
yeah,
well, this person knows this person. Well, of course you did. Now it seems obvious,
Right.
but
yeah.
then I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really that was a fun thing. And it was also cool because, we were picking a different artist to tribute every week. And well, the range of people that were doing these shows, I mean, some people we had bluegrass guys doing it, we had rock guys doing it, we had singer-songwriter people doing it. I mean, it was the amount of different styles that were represented in our group was pretty drastic. So every week somebody's out of their comfort zone. Every week, like
The,
you've got a bluegrass guy that's got to do an Aretha Franklin song or something. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
so
That's a,
that part was fun to kind of watch and people did it. That was really cool. Like nobody ever bowed out and said, no, this isn't my thing, so I'm not going to do it. Like everybody kind of went for it. And I think we all grew as artists too from that without meaning to. I mean, I think it just, you learn things when you're learning a song that's in a genre you've never even thought about before, and you're learning how to do it. Of course, I think that translates later into your music. It did for me, for sure.
Definitely
something.
the forced accountability piece too. If you know you got to get
Yeah,
on in front of everybody in a week and master
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
I'm
Right.
curious how, this might be too much inside baseball, but how did, how did selection go? Was there a draft, or how did it work on who got to choose what song?
The song. Oh man, that was a that got heated. It was so what we when we first got started, we would announce because so Courtney and I we decided every week who the next week was going to be, and so as soon as the show was over, we'd send a thing out to the group and go, okay, next week we're doing this, and people would just immediately start trying to claim their songs and stuff. But
Right.
then some people like had to put kids to bed or had to, whatever, so they weren't in it, and then they were like, well, that's not fair. I didn't get the, whatever. Like it just kind of got it never got. I mean, it wasn't mean or anything, but it
Right.
was just we figured out we had to come up with something a little more equitable. So what we started doing, the show was on Monday night, so we turned it into Tuesday at 10 a.m. and then first come first serve. So man, it was so funny. Like Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. It's just that
Well,
was
that's
pretty
cool.
great.
I
Yeah,
figured there would
yeah.
probably be some, like, I don't know, trades going on or something
I,
happening where somebody
there
got
was
the
some of
wrong
that.
song. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was a little bit of that. If like two people would claim the same song, even though one of them technically beat them to it, they might go,
Right.
"Okay, you can have this one or whatever." Yeah,
Player to be
yeah,
named later.
yeah. Most of the time, I really liked I personally, if it was somebody if it was a song like I really really wanted to do, I would definitely. I mean, and we didn't like Courtney and I didn't. We put ourselves in the same rules. Like we still had to do it at 10 o'clock too, But
Right.
my favorite thing was to just kind of let it play out, and then because that forced me to dig,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, for like to start digging into somebody's catalog and find something that maybe I didn't know, you know.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
but it was fun, man. I wish I miss it. I miss it sometimes. I'm like I said, it'll never. It's just it's impossible. You know, it'll never happen again. It was what it was in that moment. But man, it sure was special.
Yep, I
some
agree.
some of my favorite parts were, like you said, the female artists, like the Judge week and things like that. You know,
Yeah,
I don't remember if he was on that week, but like hearing like Cody Jinks have to do a Judge song
yeah,
it's all that part was always interesting. You know, and
yeah,
you could also tell the guys that really had been original music from the beginning and never did the cover stuff
yeah,
compared
yeah.
to the folks that have had to do the cover gigs, the three or
Mm,
4 hour cover gigs.
yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
like, I'm sure you're like, yeah, cover gigs, I got this, you know what I mean, like that's no
Uh-huh.
problem. But
Yeah,
other guys that start with original and never been down that road, like that's a whole nother different thing for them to do that.
yeah. You know, I think it's important. The, there's a songwriter that I grew up I loved, and he was one of my favorite songwriters ever. He was a big hero of mine, and I ended up getting to work with him a lot. And he told me he never did the cover thing. He always thought it wasn't cool to do that. And he was as he got older, he told me that it was one of his biggest regrets. That he said you learn a lot. You learn a lot by playing covers. You learn little tricks, and you learn things. And even if you're not out playing cover gigs, like just sitting at your house and learning cover
Yeah,
songs is, they just learn a lot from doing it.
get you
So
out of your box a little bit or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Huh. That's
Yeah. And you know what was funny for me to see on that, like I said, everybody was out of their wheelhouse every week. Somebody had to do something they weren't comfortable with, they had to stretch for. The only time that wasn't true was Bonnie Raitt. And that showed me like her range. You know what I mean? Like there was something for everybody. There was rockers, there was I mean, she had everybody could find something that fit what they
something.
did, and that wasn't true for anybody else that we did tribute for. So that kind of opened my eyes to how versatile she is.
Yeah,
I
I think
was,
she gets overlooked. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. My, uh, I don't know. I don't have a favorite, but one of my favorite shows that I ever got to see live, I saw Bonnie open for Waylon right
Oh
towards the
wow.
end of Waylon's
Yeah.
life, and it was about a 300 cap room, and I was
Wow.
obviously knew who she was, but I wasn't necessarily a massive fan of hers.
Hmm.
I was a massive fan of hers once I
Yeah.
left that night. Just
Yeah. Yeah. You can.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
You
just
can't see her live and not get it. Yeah.
holy smokes. Yeah, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where you go, how did I miss that? Like I knew about
Yeah.
it, but I missed it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was
She
great.
was
So
really cool too. She was one of the few that she watched the show. Somebody told her it was going on, and not only did she watch it, she sent an
Huh.
email to the group and like commented on people's performances and thanked everybody for doing it. It was pretty special. Everything about that show was pretty
yeah,
special.
very cool.
Yeah,
That's got to be strange though, as far as you're doing that for the fans and you're getting not to say you're doing it for the praise, but you're getting the comments and this and that and the other, and then you get it from
yeah.
your side. I'm sure that's not knowing if those people are going to see their song. I'm sure is a little is
Uh-huh.
a little bit
Yeah.
nerve wracking.
Yeah, we
Uh,
had a few. Steve Warner watched the whole thing, watched his. Randy
oh
Travis
man,
watched his. So yeah, there was a few that I know for
that's
sure
cool.
that they did. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
That is.
You want to do the song now, Steve?
Yeah, it's
Oh
about
man,
halftime. That'd be
Yeah.
good.
can't wait to see it. What do you hear? What
Um,
is it?
Well,
this was
it's coming.
actually, yeah, we
Okay.
were not, we didn't have to argue over this at all, to be honest. I don't remember if I played it on something. I don't remember how we got on this conversation, but we were. It's just one of those, how us music nerds do. You start debating on what the song's about and how it was
Uh-huh.
written and things like that. I mean, you do the same, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
this is the one that came about. So. And
Okay.
afterwards, we'd love to hear the story of this song.
Okay.
We heard the quiet buzzing of a fly. For a second, he wasn't quite sure what it was. Till it tickled his face and he opened his eyes on a beach in French summer sun. And sulfur in the air and the smell of something worse. He leaned up on his elbow and looked around. Wiped some blood from his face and saw his buddy James mangled, torn apart on the ground. The medics got to him, and he thanked God they did. He spent 27 days in a field hospital before making the slow trip home to the States, minus one leg, which still seemed impossible. He got a job sorting mail in the Birmingham post office, 5 days a week, enough pay to get by. He met a beautiful girl through a mutual friend, and 11 months later, that girl was his wife. Nightmares were often and so vivid and real. He'd wake up screaming a few times a week. She was patient and kind, stayed by his side. In time, he found a more restful sleep. And by the next year, they had him a son. Got drafted when he turned 18. He went off to fight, but he came back whole. Met my mom, and they had me. I come from a long line of soldiers, and their blood still flowing through me. And they fought in fields and foreign lands, so I could be who I wanted to be. Well, I broke the streak and I went to college instead of Kabul or Kuwait. Got my degree and I got hired to teach Shakespeare, Wordsworth, and Yeats. At a decent-sized high school outside of Atlanta, I did the best that I could. Yeah, that's heady stuff for kids that age. But all in all, I think I did some good. I come from a long line of soldiers whose blood still flowing through me. And they fought in fields and foreign lands, so I could be who I wanted to be. I heard the quiet buzzing of a fly. For a second, he wasn't quite sure what it was, till it tickled his face and he opened his eyes. And then he died there in that French summer sun. And that girl he would have met sorting mail back in Birmingham, she met a lawyer and they fell in love. So their story ends before it began, on that beach in the French summer sun. And that child she had, well, that wasn't my dad, and I wasn't ever his son. So my story ends before it began, on that beach in the French summer sun. And I come from a long line of soldiers whose blood flowed into the sea. War took more than just one life. It took him and his son and me.
I did not see that one coming.
Oh,
Man, that's cool. I didn't. That's not what I would have predicted. It's cool.
well,
Yeah. Man, I mean, I've already had a conversation about that song today. I mean, because I
Oh,
had a
really?
really, really, really cool thing happen last night. I played that song in Bozeman, Montana last night, and a guy came up after the show and told me a story. I won't tell it because it's not my story to tell, but man, it was like it got me in the gut. You know, somebody had a
Yeah.
story about that song and what it did for them, and you know, that's the stuff that like. I mean, I was saying today that you know, you get a story like that every couple of years, and that's all you need to keep going. You know, when somebody tells you that a song's really connected with them like that. Um, yeah, that's pretty personal song. I mean, I wrote it with Drew Kennedy.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I had been over to Anzio. Courtney and I had played a run in Europe, and we ended up our last show was in Rome, and we went down to Anzio Beach, which is where my grandfather fought in World War II. And we got there, and it was a tiny little beach, and they had been there. I read about the battle, and it lasted 6 months, and there's about 30,000 troops that got pinned down on this beach, and so I was expecting this massive beach, you know, and got there, and it was just so small and tiny, and you realize how little room for error there was. And and then I'm just looking around, I'm thinking, man, if my grandfather had moved one, I mean, had made the slightest mistake, you know, I wouldn't be there to be looking at that scene, you know. And then you realize like a trickle down of, you know, when somebody dies in war, it's not just them, you know, it's generations that you know, die off there. And so, anyway, I came home with that idea, and I immediately thought of Drew. Drew's one of the most literary writers that I know. He's an unbelievable songwriter. And so I called him, and we did something that I've never done ever. We talked about that song. We had 3 or 4 phone calls where we never wrote a word. We just talked about the idea and like who's this character and what's going on. I mean, we really like we fleshed the whole thing out as in conversation before we ever sat down to write it. So when we sat down, we wrote it over Zoom during the pandemic, and when we wrote it, we wrote it in about 30 minutes just because we had talked it to the end, you know. And so we knew exactly who this guy was and what was going on. We changed it to France from Italy just because we're poetic, you know, it just flowed better. But yeah, that's a special song to me. I'm glad you picked that one.
Do you get that as far as is that a song that you get asked about quite a bit from your catalog that you're surprised about, or is it a
Yeah,
little
I do.
underloved, or how
No, I
does it
think it's about what I thought it would what it yeah, it connects me. I can't do that song very much, you know, live. Like the room's got to be perfect. I mean, if there's one person moving in their seat or talking or whatever,
uh,
the spell gets broken, you know, and it
Right.
doesn't work. So it has to be one of those rooms that just is just pin drop
it
quiet, you
can't
know.
be rowdy for that? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
get
can't,
that.
not even not routed. Like you can't, like nobody, you can't even have like one person that's just whispering in the, you know, it's so quiet that it
Right.
doesn't work. And it's got to be the right room. It's hard to fit it into a set because you know, it's not an uplifting. I mean, maybe it is, but it's not you know, it's not a party song. You know,
Right.
it's hard to find like where to put it in the set. I probably play it maybe once a month. Maybe I'll play it at a show. People ask about it a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, I asked for requests last night, and that somebody asked for it. So yeah.
As
Right.
as far as the recording of it, did
Mhm.
it have any other different lives where there was more than just you and the acoustic, or
No,
was that
we
pretty much the plan from the beginning?
no, it wasn't the plan. So the way we made that record, um, it was a great band. It was a really great group of guys, and so I would go in and play them the songs acoustic, and then they would they'd listen through it, and then it was all acoustic instruments, mandolins and dobros, and you know, those kinds of it was all bluegrassy kind of instruments, and stand up bass, and so I would play it, and then they would go grab instruments, and they'd start figuring out their parts, and you know, that's how it would happen. And we fully meant for that to be. It was exactly like all the others. I played it, and as soon as I finished it, everybody just said, "No, we're not playing on that." It was more the band. Like the band just kind of went, "I don't know what to do on that," you know. And it was the right move. I mean, it. If the words don't come through, you know, that's one of those. If you're not hearing the words, if it's
Yeah.
getting drowned out by the music, then it's just some weird rambling talking thing, like you've got to be able to hear the words. So I think it worked out exactly like it was supposed to work out, but that definitely was not the production plan. That was the band. That was the band's idea to
And,
not play on it.
that was Gordy, right? Was in
Uh-huh.
on that from Band of Heathens. So folks that
Yeah.
are, if they're watching this, they know who these guys are, and they
Yeah.
probably heard Jeff Queen's music all over
Yeah.
tons of stuff they might not know about, but he's there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Noah
Couple
Jeffries with the mandolin. I mean, that was a great man. What a great group. Yeah.
couple of things specifically about that song. There are certain songs, at least personally, that I always remember exactly where I was the first time I heard it,
Mm,
and that is absolutely one of those songs. I
really?
remember
Oh, that's cool.
exactly where I was in the car when I heard it,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, hold on,
yeah,
we're gonna have to
exactly.
listen to this a couple times." So,
Yeah.
and then the other thing that sticks out is, and this is probably pretty simple, but your ability to kind of control the volume up and down, and
Mm,
I mean, there's a dance there, and that's
yeah.
really, I mean, really well done. So
Oh man.
we didn't bring
Thanks.
you on just to say that, but it really is awesome.
Thank you. It's one of those. It's funny. It's not a song that you can't listen to that song over and over again. I get that. It's for one. It's the surprise ending. Like once you've heard it once, that part goes away,
Right.
and two, it's just not a song you're gonna just you're not gonna listen to that a lot. And it's also I've noticed it's a song people either love it or they hate it. It's which I think it's different. And so I mean, yeah, there's people that don't like the talking part. It like bothers them that it's talking and whatever. I mean, it's fine, but it is funny, like the reaction. I've never heard anybody go, "Yeah, that song's okay." They either love
One or
it
the
or
other.
they absolutely hate it. Yeah.
I,
What about live? For when you play that song in your set, and you know people haven't heard it before. From your point of view, watching reactions from it when the curveball hits, like how's
Yeah, I mean, well, I'd say last night there was a couple of people that had to get up and they left the room after the song, and like people were crying and stuff. Yeah, when the when the mood is right and everybody's into it and everybody's feeling it. Yeah, it can. I mean, it's pretty palpable
does it
how
make it
how
tough for you
how
to
it
get through
works.
it?
No, it used to when I first started playing it. It was hard, but no, it's not anymore. But yeah, and I can always tell too, usually the people that have the biggest reaction, they'll come up afterwards and they've always got a story. My grandfather did
Uh,
this, or I lost somebody in the war or whatever. There's always some kind of
special
connection
connection.
usually
Yeah.
to it. Yeah. 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 I got to
All
play
right.
that song on the Opry. That the first time I did the Opry, that was what I closed with, was that
well,
song. And
okay, well
that
that's something
that was pretty cool.
we could talk about then. You have that coming up, right?
Yeah, this will be number 3 for me. Yeah, which is crazy. It's crazy.
So
Yeah.
who was, if I understand it right, you have to have somebody invite you. Is that correct?
Um,
Or,
I don't know. If that's true, I don't know who did
oh,
it.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
I don't know
to
that.
be a
Yeah,
member of the Grand Ole
to be a
Opry,
member.
you
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
but
I got a little birdie at the North Springs Music Festival told me that a lady was going to be joining you to sing a
yeah,
song at the Grand Ole
yeah,
Opry. Can you talk
yeah. I'm
about
pretty.
that?
Um,
Or
Man, I
you
don't know.
don't know?
I kind of like the surprise of it.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, but
Well,
I'm super excited about it. So my first time was unbelievably special. I mean, you can't describe that feeling of walking out on
yeah.
that stage and standing in front of that microphone and on that circle that's on the floor. And so last year when I did it for the second time, I had the Midnight River Choir was my band. First time I used a house band. Second time they were my band. So the second time was almost as fun for me getting to watch somebody else do it for the first time, like
Right.
watching them have that experience, you know. And so this time will be that I will have that same. I get to watch somebody else do it for the first time,
That's cool.
which is
That's
pretty
cool.
great. Yeah,
Did
I mean,
when you
man, if it was, I would love to say it, but I kind of want
No,
the, I
that's all
kind of
right.
like
That's
the
okay. That's
surprise
okay.
element of it.
That's
Yeah,
why that's
yeah,
why I didn't mention
yeah.
names. So yeah, you definitely check that out. Especially yeah, it's a yeah. We won't go anymore. Uh, um, what about did friends and family make that trip up when
Oh
you
yeah,
the first time? So that I'm sure
yeah.
that was even more emotional.
Man, that was so cool. Yeah, I mean, for just my parents to be there and out in the audience and backstage, you know, they came backstage and then I had you could just tell that people had come in from all over. I knew that a lot of people had, but people came in from all over the country, and I mean, the response when I was out there was amazing, you know, and I knew that that was my people that were there, you know, um, and then afterwards, the first time you do it, you always do kind of an after party, and we did an after party over at the Nashville Palace, and that was the craziest because I'm walking around this. It's private, it's roped off. You know, it's just your group that you invite. We had like 70 people that came, and it's just people that I've known from all. Like, there's this person. Here's this person from Philadelphia, and here's this person from Denver. You know, and like all these people that you see throughout the year in all these different parts of the country, and then they're all there in one place. That was pretty special.
That had to be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Like a huge
yeah.
birthday party.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's man, I mean there's nothing like I can't believe, you know, I just time number three and I mean I've talked to, you know, Sonny Sweeney's done it 100 and something times and Wade Bowen's done it a lot now and both of them say that it never, you know, the 100th time is as special as the first time. So I I can definitely see that.
I got to see Sonny at the ramen once. That was you could tell it was emotional for her. Even I don't know how many times she had played there before or not, but I
Yeah.
know it's not the official or the current Grand Ole Opry stage, but there's it's
Yeah.
a that's another
You know,
milestone thing. So
yeah, the best piece of advice that I got, Wade Bowen called me before the first one, and he just said, whatever you do, sometime when you're out there, like stop and take a second and take it in. Like don't just get out there and let nerves kind of just plow you through it. He said, just make sure you do, and I did. It was after my second song, and I really like I because he said that, like I just stopped and just looked around the room and like was aware. Another really cool story from my first time was my first concert I ever saw was the Oak Ridge Boys, and so I was at the Opry and I was getting ready to go on, and I wasn't nervous for some reason. I was more nervous the days leading up to it, but when it at night when I was backstage and stuff, I really wasn't. It surprised me that I wasn't nervous. And then they call you and they give you like a 5 minute warning, and you go stand side stage. And Connie Smith was playing, and I was starting, the nerves were starting to come up, you know, because I'm realizing, oh man, this is about to really happen, you know. And just when I was starting to kind of think about it, I get this tap on my shoulder, and he goes, Jason, and I said, yeah. And I turned around, and it was Joe Bonsall, the lead singer for the Oak Ridge Boys, and he was like, he goes, I've been listening to your music, I got your records, and he just started talking, and we talked. I just sat there and talked to the Oak Ridge Boys for, you know, for that whole 5 minutes. And next thing I know, they're like, Jason, you're up, you know, and like they kept me. Not only did it keep me from being nervous, but it also validated, you know, the whole imposter syndrome thing. Like it validated being there. You know, when somebody like that knows who you are, and you know, all of a sudden it goes from being nervous and what am I doing here to, you know, okay, this is everything's the way it's supposed to be. You know, and then I played. And so as I'm looking around, I'm taking that minute to kind of look around, you know, in between songs, and I look over to stage right, and all four Oak Ridge Boys were just standing there watching the set, which was really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
incredibly cool.
they he the singer I went and blank. I'm sorry,
Joe
Talbo.
Joe Bonsall. Yeah,
He just always seems super I mean, I don't know how much of it was the show or not, but he always just seemed super nice. Like he
He
always
was
in a
so
positive.
nice.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just
he really
seemed.
was.
It just like showed through in his performances. I'm like, I
Yeah.
always felt like either he's really good at smiling or he just is having a ball. One of the
I
two, you
mean,
know.
I talked to him for that 5 minutes is all I ever talked to him in my life. But man, I mean, it was as genuine as you could imagine. I mean, he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? He didn't have to walk up and talk to me. And it was, and it was, he was so cool that it, like, for a second, I was like, oh man, that's, I was, you're aware of who it is. And then he just said he was so natural and cool that we just started talking. Like I was actually just having a conversation with him. And it was great. Yeah. It
I
was cool.
imagine to a certain extent it probably allowed him to relive that moment a little bit as well,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple questions. I know you said, nobody will cut your songs, which I know that's not true. But if you had to pick somebody or you could choose someone to cut one of your songs, who would it be and why?
I'm sorry. You have to say that one more time. I got
Yes.
a call that came in. I had to turn
Oh,
it
no,
down.
you're good. So you'd mentioned that nobody had cut your songs, and I said that I didn't think that that was true. But also, I'm curious if you could pick one person to cut one of your songs, who would it be and then why?
These days, I mean, I love Chris Stapleton's voice so much, and I think he's a master of what he does, and so yeah, that would be, of course I would say Merle Haggard, 10 years ago, but yeah, I think to hear Chris Stapleton do a song, I cut one of his, so maybe he could,
Yeah. Pay,
maybe he'll
pay you
return
back.
the favor one day.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be cool.
uh-huh,
Um,
yeah.
and then this is a little bit more of a, I guess, question. We all need folks that will shoot us straight. Do you have anybody that you go to for kind of unbiased advice? Maybe they're in the business, maybe they aren't. But just curious if you have somebody like that, whether it's a mentor or somebody that can kind of shoot you straight on something you're considering.
I think Yeah, I have a couple of, I mean, I got a couple of friends like that. Jamie Lynn Wilson is really good for that. She doesn't pull any punches. Mike Harmeyer from Silverado, he's
Sure.
another one that um, like I said, it's a pretty great little support group. But those two in particular are two that they don't pull any punches.
Okay.
If you're wrong, they'll tell you you're wrong, and
Sure.
that's, man, I mean, that's
Pretty
invaluable,
valuable.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then another question. This is, I guess, more of a basic question, but uh, if you hop in your vehicle, other than Merle Haggard, what's on your playlist?
Well, lately I've kind of been doing I mean, I got in a real big JJKO mode when I was writing my Mississippi album. Um, that was I took a real deep dive into his stuff, and but lately I'm doing the radio. I just put on somebody and then let the algorithm kind of start recommending things, and it's really fun to I'm listening to stuff that I would have imagined that I would listen to. I mean, I'm around it so much that I, it's easy to get kind of stuck in a rut, with the people that or whatever, and
Sure.
so that method is really cool for just finding brand new stuff that I would never have gone out and sought out on my own and played. So yeah, it's that's what I'm enjoying lately, is just letting the music come to me through those kinds of things.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I used to be like, I was so on the anti Spotify train when it came out, because it is giving, you're still having to pay tens of thousands of dollars to make these records, and they're making all the money on it. I mean, that part is true, but their pitch the whole time was always the exposure thing, and they're not wrong. I mean, that's because if you don't do it, your career's done.
Right.
If you're not on the streaming services, then that's the end. That's
Right.
the beginning of the end right there. And it's just every show, somebody that's how they found you, this way or that way. So I still wish there was some sort of more,
Right.
there's
Tangible.
got to be a middle. There's got to be a middle ground,
Right.
because I know it seems like those companies are making a whole lot of money that's not getting passed down. But so I'm not saying I still 100% agree with it, but I definitely I get the point. I'm not against it.
Sure.
I would rather somebody listen and stream it and listen than not,
Right.
yeah.
Makes sense.
So basically, what he's saying is, when you go to his shows, he's saying without saying, when you go to his shows, buy some shit so that you basically been
Yeah.
listening to his music for free. So buy a shirt, buy the
Yeah,
album.
man.
Help a homie out. That's
Yeah. There's a great venue in the Woodlands in Texas called Do Si Do, and they have this great thing that they say. They have a guy that comes up and does an intro, and they've figured it out. They've done the math, and they say that, like, if you go buy this T-shirt, that's the equivalent of 23,400 streams, whatever. Like, they figured that out, and that's what they say at the beginning of the show, and I think that's a pretty great way to put it. But
Yep.
yeah,
I
of
agree.
course, I mean that keeps you. We got to make up for that somehow. I mean, it's you can't, if you're out just spending $20,000-$30,000 every time you're making an album and none of it's coming back to you. Well, you're not going to do that very
That's
long.
gonna end pretty quick. Right.
Yeah.
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 So from the YouTube chat, we had somebody ask, uh, what is one of the songs that you're most proud of that you've written so far?
My favorite song is one called Promises and Pieces. I wrote that probably about 10 years ago now. That one's probably the one that I put the most effort into, as far as, I mean, I spent weeks and weeks on that song. It's a story song, and I love it. I still like playing it, and that's the one. I think, if I were to, like, sit around in a room with all of my songwriting heroes, and they're like, you can play one song, that's the one that I think I would play. This last batch of stuff on the Mississippi album was really fun too, because from the completely opposite direction, right? I mean, that one
Mm-hmm.
I love because it's so lyric oriented, and just like French Summer Sun. This last record was one of the harder ones for me to write, because I am a lyrics first kind of guy. And so on this last one, I wanted it to be so much about the feel. That Mississippi groove thing is what I was going for. That was the whole point of making the album. So I was writing from the other side. I was writing from making the words feel good and making the music feel good. And then, maybe the songs mean something, maybe they don't, but that wasn't the point. And
Right.
so that one was, I'm pretty proud of that one, even though it's a whole different thing. But, like, that was a challenge for me. That was a big challenge for me to come at it from that direction. That's not my natural way to approach it. So it was hard but fun.
You mentioned the J.J. Cale thing. I didn't really put that together, but that makes sense. The one that came to mind when I listened to that album was Rye Cooter, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily because of the
Hmm.
slide work, but just the feel of it in general. I don't know why, but that was that, what was the name of it? The one with the Karate Kid, Crossroads.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
where Rycooter was on
Ralph
that.
Macchio.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Crossroads,
Yeah. Well,
we
I'll tell
we
you real
should talk
quick.
about
So,
that festival.
We should.
yeah, I want to. I will tell you, like, leading up to that record, I was listening to a lot of JJ Cale, but I had a little playlist that I was doing, and yeah, it was Ry Cooder was on it, and he did a record with Taj Mahal, and so I did dug a lot into that record. R.L. Burnside, one of the great Delta blues guys in Mississippi. So yeah, I was all over the place on that roots blues music, making that record. But yeah, I have this festival coming up. Speaking of
Yeah.
speaking of Delta blues, yeah. Uh,
Um,
yeah, it's here in a couple weeks. It's November 8th and 9th. And yeah, this is the first year. So last year I did it because the album was named Mississippi, and I was on my album release tour. It was the last it was the last dates of the run. And I just invited people down, and I wanted to finish the tour in Mississippi. And it was really supposed to be a one-time thing. And 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 it turned out we do it at this place called, well, part of it's at the Shack Up Inn. We've got another venue where we're doing the shows. And it just went so well that, like, the day it was over, everybody was already saying, what's the date next year? And so we picked the date on the spot.
Oh, nice.
And so this year it's the first year that it's actually, I'm thinking about it as a festival that's going to keep going, um, but yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's really cool. I always wanted to have a festival, but I didn't know everybody's got a festival, and there's so many of them, and I was like, what do you do that's different, if I had planned it, if I had tried to design this, it never would have worked, right? It just kind of fell. It just kind of came from this thing, and then it just turned itself into a festival, which is really cool. I mean, it's pretty great to have that. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. It's a great lineup. We got 11 artists now on it, and yeah, it's going to be a blast. I've got a lot of, I don't want to give it away too much, but I will tell you, like, my vision for this thing is I want you to leave and go, that's not something I'll ever see again. Like, these combinations of people, this way this thing was done. Like, I want it to all be about moments, not just that this band played their 45-minute set and this band played their 45-minute set. I want it to be more like, I'm setting it up so that there will be a lot of, like, let's do some things that will never happen again. And this is a one-time thing. Come see it, or you'll have to hear about it, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. What
Yeah.
best way to get tickets is to go to your website?
Yeah, go to my website, and then if you go to my website and then go on the menu, there's a whole menu item for the Way Down in Mississippi Festival. Yeah,
Can
and
you
there's
kind of give it a little bit of just a brief, just kind of what they're getting into when they come to, you don't have to give the surprises, but
sure.
what's kind of the thought
Yeah,
behind it?
well, there's daytime. During the day, there's day afternoon shows on Friday and Saturday, and there's afternoon shows and evening shows. There, everything's going to be at this place called the Hobson Commissary, which is all the old blues guys played there. It's just an great old place in Clarksdale, and all the shows are going to be there. And the afternoon, it was going to be acoustic song swaps, and those will be set. I've already got them, the lineups. So everybody that's on the festival will do one of those. They'll be involved in one of the rounds on the 2 days, and then in the evening, it's 5 shows per night over at the thing. And all I'll say is that what we're not going to do is we're not going to have set times. It's not going to be this band's playing from 7 to 7:45, and then there's a 15-minute break. It's not going to be that. We will just say, here's the 5 people that are on tonight, and then you got to be there to see what happens. Yeah.
Well, and,
like
and what he's talked about is a lot of the folks that are going to be on the card. He's mentioned already as far as being buddies. So I'm sure it makes even as a friendship thing. I'm sure it's just like one of those hotel jams you were talking about. We just get
Yeah.
to see it. We just get to
Yeah,
see it.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had very much I picked the lineup based on people that I knew would do that. That's exactly, the whole lineup was handpicked, and they're great, but the lineup was not about sell as many tickets as we can sell, get the biggest names, even though there's big names. I'm not saying that, but like, that wasn't the goal. But the idea behind who is on it is because I want people that I know are going to participate, and be present and be engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's going to be a blast. Get there,
so-
folks.
Yeah.
Before we get to any of the rapid fire stuff, I just wanted I don't know if you'll remember this or not, but at the last show at Hernando's Hideaway here in Memphis, you
Yeah.
and Jamie Lynn,
Yeah.
so I got you to sign the Adam Hood album because of Downturn, right?
Uh-huh.
And Brent Cobb wrote, "Hood ain't shit." Right? And you wrote with an arrow what he said. So I actually got to show Adam that, and he was like,
That's
with
funny.
friends like these guys.
Yeah.
So
I can actually hear
yeah.
Adam saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that was a fun night.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you were headed to Jackson, Mississippi after
That was the
that
last
night.
one. That was the one before the festival. Oh, no,
Yeah.
that was like 6 months before. That's the one where I went down, and the next day I drove through and visit. Like, the next day is when I got the idea to do it, to be honest. Like, I left Memphis and I had a show in Marigold, Mississippi, and so I
That's right.
drove down. Jamie was riding with me, and we rode down to go to drive through the Delta and see the crossroads and stuff. And like that's where the idea came from, was that
Uh,
day. Yeah,
I'm gonna try to
yeah.
take some time
should-
down there and take in some of that too. While I'm not that far away, but I've never been either, so
You
it's
know,
a
you
strange.
should. Part of
Hmm.
what I do, what I really encourage people to do when you come is there's the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale,
Hmm.
and that town started the. I mean, it's like there's not many places in the country or the world that are that important to music. I mean, what came out of that town, specifically that town, was the stuff that the Beatles and the Stones and Led Zeppelin, like that's what those guys were listening to, and then that turned into the whole thing. I mean, it's just like that, and not just the British invasion stuff, but I mean, just music in America came from that town. And so if you go, what I encourage everybody to do is while you're there, go to the Delta Blues Museum. It's an incredible museum, and what happened last year is when people first got there, you're looking around, you're like, what are we doing here? Like it's the middle of nowhere, it's not,
Yeah.
it's just, and then they would go to the museum and they'd come back and go, okay, now I get it. So I really try to get people to go to the museum and understand why we're doing it there.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
definitely. I mean, I would imagine it does get overlooked a little bit. Everyone, you think of Chicago blues, these different things like that, but
Hmm.
it's not necessarily something people are looking for unless you. It's like if you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Talbo, before we get
No,
to that?
I think hopefully we covered what we need to. Want to respect your time, but we do have some rapid fire questions and then a really important final question that Soul Gravy's going to ask. So,
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Uh-huh.
all right. So rapid fire,
Okay.
Desert Island album. You get a pick.
Phases and Stages. It's a Willie Nelson record.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool. Dinner with one historical figure.
Whew, man. That's, oh man. I'm going to say something and then later on I'll change my mind. But
That's all right.
I would say, I'm a historical figure. It'd probably be a writer like Mark Twain or Steinbeck or Hemingway,
Yeah.
somebody along those lines. Yeah, I would love to know what that was like to write during those days. Yeah.
Right.
Good answer. Ideal green room.
Man, I just played a place that had it. It's so funny you
Oh,
say this. I just played a place in Milwaukee, called Vivarium that, I mean, my tour manager and I were standing back there and we're like, if I ever start a club, like this is the green room. I mean, it just had everything. It had washers and dryers. It had these nice big sofas. It had its own sound system back there with a iPad that you controlled it with, so you could control your own like pre-show music. Back in the green
wow.
room. It's funny you asked that right now because that literally just happened last week where we actually said this is the coolest green room I've ever been in. Yeah, it was really
Nice.
great.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
shout out to those folks. Um, bucket list venue. I know you've played a ton of great places, but is there some place maybe that you haven't played yet that you really would like to play?
The Ryman. Yeah,
Okay.
I would love to do the Ryman. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest bucket list. I mean, the Opry's great and I love doing it, but I would love to do it on that original stage at some point
Sure.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You answered part of this question earlier. So the question is first concert and then first concert you paid for.
First concert was first concert was Oak Ridge Boys. First concert I paid for was it was Merle Haggard and Clint Black, and Merle Haggard was opening that. He was opening the shows on that tour. Yeah, which I
Wow.
later found out. I remember when that happened, and all the old guys were like, they were so mad about it.
Yeah.
And I have since learned that Merle Haggard insisted on that. I think he just wanted to play and get out of there.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if it was exactly that reasoning, but I have heard that wasn't that was Hag's choice is what I've heard with that. But yeah, that was first, and it was amazing. I mean, both of those guys were. I mean, it's Merle Haggard, and then
Yeah,
Clint Black was kind of top of his game back then too. So it was great.
for sure. And then last rapid fire question is tribute bands, yay or nay?
Nah, Not a
No,
big fan.
fair enough.
And yeah, I mean, man, I don't know if I'm gonna regret saying this. Part of it is because of their attitudes. Like they can get real smug because they get big crowds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like, it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, you're good at what you do, but don't fool yourself.
Right.
There's a reason. It's the reason the crowd is there has nothing to do with,
Yeah,
they're there because somebody else did those
I got
songs.
you.
And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Especially the attitude. That would be the
It's the attitude. If it
that would be
wasn't for
the
the attitude, I'm all good with. But I've known some people in those bands, and they they can have a smugness sometimes that doesn't rub the right way with me. Yeah,
I imagine
I'm
so.
probably going to regret saying that, but
It's
yeah,
probably no. It's
Yeah,
probably not just you. It's probably a lot of people that pound the pavement and put in all those miles like that. I mean, it's
yeah,
that yeah.
yeah,
Played all the empty. I mean, I've seen you in a couple rough rooms in Memphis. So
yeah, yeah,
you and Hood both, and so
yeah.
yeah. All right, is it time
it's
for it?
time. It is time.
Okay, all right. All right, this is this started out as a joke, and now is the most important question of the evening.
Oh
And
man.
being a Mississippian, you know all about these. So, Jason? What is your favorite Little Debbie cake?
I don't even know what they are. They're like roll. It's like a roll, like a log. You know what I'm talking about? I don't even
I
know what
think
they're
I
called.
think they're called Swiss rolls.
Yeah, Swiss rolls. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well done.
That's funny. Yeah,
The
yeah,
the
that's funny.
the people
Yeah,
want to know.
Yeah, they
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
That's
we
it.
are
Yeah.
also, to be fair, we're angling for a Little Debbie sponsorship.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it's just
especially since we
that's
found out they're
between
in
us, though.
Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apparently they're near Chattanooga, so it's
yeah.
not that far away. Well, all right, Jason, we appreciate your time. I know that I'm looking forward to the festival down there in Clarksdale. That'll be
Yeah.
a blast.
Yeah. Glad y'all are coming. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
I'm one as a fan. I'm a fan of a lot of those people, but I think it makes it even more special because of the way you're putting together that lineup, and it's buddies, and not like
Yeah.
you said, not just people that's going to play their show and then leave. I'm sure you're the same way. I mean, you would like to think you're the people you listen to or friends too, whether they are whether they're not or not.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
makes a little bit music romantic, and you just
Yeah.
enjoys it a little bit more. Thinking like
Well,
watching you and Jamie Lynn on that show, it would have been
yeah,
great
yeah.
anyway. But to know y'all were
Uh-huh.
buddies and busting each other's balls about stuff was
Yeah.
even better. So
Well, one thing that I am excited about, now I did pick everybody for that reason, but the cool thing for me too is not everybody knows each other. There's a little bit of like this, there's these people I know from over here, and I know that they're going to connect. So that's going to be
uh,
fun for me too, is like
Yeah, that's
getting
cool.
those people together with each other. Yeah.
very cool, very cool. All right, well, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for doing this. This is fun.
Appreciate it. And
All right.
we'll have
See
you
y'all.
hang, Jason. We'll have you hang for just a second while it downloads.